The other thing is your faith. Now, are you really a creationist? Do you subscribe to Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, and that's where we came from?
Well, I certainly believe that God is our creator. And interestingly enough, if you look at our founding document, the Declaration of Independence, it talks about certain inalienable rights given to us by our creator.
Right. Well,
so
but that can be intelligent
ready?
design, you know, and intelligent design leads to evolution. Well, but there are some people, fundamentalist religious people, who believe, look, Adam and Eve were there, and that's the way it says in Genesis, and that's what happened. Where are you on that?
Well, I think people are certainly allowed their private beliefs. I know a lot of people say that I believe that the earth is 6,000 years old, and they have no basis for saying that.
You know, I'm not a hard and fast person who says the earth is only 6,000 years old. But I do believe in the six-day creation. And because, you know, it says in the beginning, God created heaven and earth. It doesn't say when he created them except for in the beginning. So the earth could have been here for a long time before he started creating things on it. But when he did start doing that, he made it very specifically clear to us. The evening and the morning were the next day. And then what else did he say in the very first chapter? That each thing brought forth after its own kind.
I don't know how old the earth is. It says in the beginning God created the heaven and the earth, and then there's a period there. You don't know how much time elapsed. But the other thing is that people don't realize he's God. If he wanted to create an earth that was billions of years old, he could do it. They can't do it. How come they're always trying to put themselves in the same category as God?
Well, they're trying to diminish your intellect. You know, that's what they try to do.
From the indications that I got, they did not rush the shooter. The shooter can only shoot one person at a time. He cannot shoot a whole group of people. I would ask everybody to attack the gunman because he can only shoot one of us at a time. That way we don't all wind up dead. I would not just stand there and let him shoot me. I would say, hey guys, everybody attack him. He may shoot me, but he can't get us all.
But just a day later, the former brain surgeon recounting a much different reaction when he was once held at gunpoint in Baltimore to Sirius XM radio.
The guy comes in, puts the gun in my ribs, and I just said, I believe that you want the guy behind the counter. He thought I was... Now, what about the Big Bang theory? I find the Big Bang really quite fascinating. I mean, here you have all these highfalutin scientists, and they're saying that there was this gigantic explosion and everything came into perfect order. Now, these are the same scientists who go around touting the second law of thermodynamics, which is entropy, which says that things move toward a state of disorganization. So now you're going to have this big explosion and everything becomes perfectly organized. And when you ask them about it, they say, well, we can explain this based on probability theory. Well... But, I mean, it's even more ridiculous than that because our solar system, not to mention the universe outside of that, is extraordinarily well organized to the point where we can predict 70 years away when a comet is coming. Now, that type of organization to just come out of an explosion, I mean, you want to talk about fairy tales. That is amazing. I personally believe that this theory that Darwin came up with was something that was encouraged by the adversary. And it has become what is scientifically, politically correct. Amazingly, there are a significant number of scientists who do not believe it. But they're afraid to say anything.
through a combination of removing guns and disseminating deceitful propaganda, the Nazis were able to carry out their evil intentions with relatively little resistance. So what is the point you're trying to make? If there had been guns in Germany, there might not have been a Holocaust?
My point is, that was only one of the countries that I mentioned. There were a number of countries where tyranny reigned, and before it happened, they disarmed the people. That was the point.
So, but just clarify, if there had been no gun control laws in Europe at that time, would 6 million Jews have been slaughtered?
I think the likelihood of Hitler being able to accomplish his goals would have been greatly diminished if the people had...
Hitler did not disarm German citizens. It started far before that. So in 1919, the Treaty of Versailles disarmed Germany. That was part of getting rid of their ability to generate...
It's partly why Hitler came back.
Exactly. In 1928, the legislation was relaxed. Germans could possess firearms.
1938, right?
No, 1928, it was further relaxed in 38. In 28, they could possess firearms, but they were required to have permits. In 1938, it was relaxed further. Rifles and shotguns were completely deregulated. Permits were extended to 3 years, and the age at which guns could be purchased was lowered to 18. Now, it is true historically that in 1938, he did outlaw Jews specifically in Germany from having those guns, but there was private ownership of guns. Guns were available.
Same-sex marriage. You have equal protection. It's working its way through the courts. The decisions are getting more and more uniform. But then you have people of faith who say marriage is ours. God says it is a man and a woman. The Bible says, my faith says, which one wins with Dr. Carson?
Here's what I would do. I would do what the Constitution says. Constitution says civil issues of that nature should be determined at the state level. Why does it say that? Because the judicial system at the state level has to answer to the people.
What if people of a state vote for a law 100-0 that winds up infringing on the rights of a minority, like happened very often with slavery, like many would argue is happening now with people who are gay?
And our Constitution was followed, and we corrected them.
What's happening right now with same-sex marriage, it's being corrected as a form of violation of equal protection.
No, you can't just say because it happened that way this time, this is the same situation. It's not the same situation.
Why not?
Because people have no control over their race, for instance.
You think they have control over their sexuality?
Absolutely.
You think being gay is a choice?
Absolutely.
Why do you say that?
Because a lot of people who go into prison straight, and when they come out, they're gay. So did something happen while they were in there? Ask yourself that question.
Never go to prison, and you know there's a whole theory of dominance.
Wait a minute. I said a lot of people who go in, come out. Are you denying that that's true?
I am not denying that that's true, but I am denying that that's as a basis of understanding homosexuality.
If, in fact, that is the case, then it obviously thwarts what you just said.
Should a president's faith matter? Should your faith matter to voters?
Oh, well, I guess it depends on what that faith is. If it's inconsistent with the values and principles of America, then of course it should matter. But if it fits within the realm of America and consistent with the Constitution, no problem.
So do you believe that Islam is consistent with the Constitution?
No, I do not. I would not advocate that we put a Muslim in charge of this nation. I absolutely would not agree with that.
And I take it you believe the president was born in the United States and is a Christian?
I believe that he is. I have no reason to doubt what he said.
He says that he's in favor of the United States Constitution. Okay, well, let's read the Constitution, find out if that's true. First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And we go on with the First Amendment. Okay, so let's skip to graphic 11A here. How about the no religious test clause of the United States Constitution? The senators and representatives before mentioned and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by an oath or affirmation to support this Constitution, but no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust under the United States.
We get used to the idea that evolution is so good at producing beautiful, elegant animals that look as though they've been designed. We forget that sometimes they're not perfect and there are imperfections. And the imperfections are very revealing because they're exactly the kind of imperfections you'd expect from the accidents of history if there were no designer. There's a nerve called the recurrent laryngeal, which runs from the brain, and its end organ is the larynx, and you think it would just go straight there. But in a human, what it does is goes down into the chest, loops around one of the main arteries in the chest, and then goes straight back up again. Obviously a ridiculous detour. No engineer would ever make a mistake like that.
In our bodies, the laryngeal nerve takes a circuitous route. But what happens in an animal with a neck as long as this?
What I'm actually holding here is the beginning of that nerve. It actually starts out not as a separate nerve, but as a branch coming off of a bigger nerve called the vagus nerve. And this is going to keep running all the way down the body. So you'll see it again over here, all the way down the neck on both sides. So you can see it again right there.
Yes.
And this is going to wrap around the great vessels coming out of the heart. So here it is wrapping around that, and then it continues right there. So here's the vagus going down, and here's the vagus continuing.
Right.
And right over here, there's a branch right there. So it's looping and it's coming back, it's doing a U-turn all the way down here. So it's traveled that entire distance to make a U-turn to go all the way back up again. And so now we can follow it going back up again. So we follow this branch, and if we look, we see it again over here. Here it is, like that. And here you see it going up. This is the voice box, the larynx, and so you can see it going right into the back of the larynx here. And as it innervates this area, it controls the muscles that then control making sounds, but also coordinating breathing and swallowing in this area. So this is a very important nerve. Interestingly, where it ends is pretty close to where it started. It started here, coming out of the brain. It really only needed to go about 2 inches.
Yes, amazing.
But it went all the way down and came all the way back.
Yes. That's a beautiful example of historical legacy as opposed to design.
Exactly. This is not an intelligent design. An intelligent design would be to go from here to here.
Yes.
It does kind of beg the question, though, that even in an animal that might have been many millions of years ago with its head down here, why the route round the blood vessels, unless there was a reason that they were there to innovate something else?
Well, that was in earlier ancestors, then it was the most direct route in fish.
So it's just inherited.
It's a historical legacy.
Fish really don't have much of a neck, so there isn't any extension to worry about in fish. It just goes directly there. Once you introduce a mammalian neck, you start to get a longer neck, now the heart is displaced down lower.
It turns out the laryngeal nerve first evolved in fish-like creatures as a direct link from the brain to gills near the heart. Over millions of generations, this nerve gradually lengthened, each small step always simpler than a major rewiring to a more direct route.
Remember that a designer, an engineer, can go back to the drawing board, throw away the old design, start afresh with what looks more sensible. A designer has foresight. Evolution can't go back to the drawing board. Evolution has no foresight.